Eric, Vincent, Merry Christmas, man. Merry Christmas. Let's just
Merry
get that
Christmas,
out of the
AJ.
way right now. How are
Let's be
you?
happy to start this.
I
I'm
missed
good,
you
man.
last week. I'm going to be honest with you.
Welcome back, man. I feel like we need some kind of sound effects, some kind of board to welcome you back in, man. It's good to see you again, brother.
Yeah, it was a crazy, great holiday seasons are nuts. But
Always.
I hope that you are doing well. I hope that you and your family had a great holiday season.
Appreciate it, man. We did. It was I'm 32 years old, so I'm at the point where the presents I give out are more important at this point.
Yes.
Like I have a niece, I have siblings, my parents, and the funniest gift though, the funniest scenario was my pops. He gave me and my siblings each a gift. He gave us one box together. He's like, "Oh, I got you guys something." We're like, "All right." So we open it and it's a PS5. Like, "Oh snap, that's cool." Like
Nice.
I'm a gamer, but I don't I wasn't expecting that. He's like, "Yeah, it's set up downstairs." Da, da, da. So we go down and it's set up at his place, and the game he has is Tiger Woods. So I'm like,
Yeah.
you got this for you, disguised for us. It
That
was cool though. It was super cool, man. It was really cool.
You know
Surprise.
what? I applaud your dad. That good
Appreciate it.
for him.
Shout out
No
my
Madden
pops.
though. No Madden.
Nah, we stopped on Madden. I think when Calvin was on the cover. I think that was the last time I played Madden.
Really?
Yeah, it's been a while. It's the same thing. It's
I
kind
was
of
always a NCAA guy. So when they took that away,
mm,
I still play PS3.
hey, PS3, PS2, those are
It's just
gold.
it is what it is. We
Yeah, if they bring
despite
if they bring
go ahead.
NFL Street back, I'm all in. That's all I need.
NFL Blitz. Did you ever play NFL
Yes,
Blitz?
yes, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, I
That was
did.
the game. That was
Another
so much
classic,
fun.
indeed.
Dude, we're here. It's been 2 weeks since we got to talk because I was off last week. We were riding high 2 weeks ago, and you
We
and
were.
Matt were riding pretty high too after the victory over the Jets because that was
Shout
a
out to Matt.
phenomenal victory.
Mm-hmm.
But Saturday was not phenomenal.
It was not it
It
at
was
all.
not phenomenal at all.
Ugh.
And we got a lot to unpack. Tonight's all lines. I know we got Michigan playing TCU on Saturday, which if we want to talk about that, jump in the comments. We can talk about Michigan and TCU. We have no problem talking about that. But I feel of more importance at this point in time is the Detroit Lions because now there's 2 games left for a team that was counted out after 1-6. This is the second year
Mhm.
of a rebuild. Nothing really was supposed to happen. They've worked themselves into playoff contention, and then on Saturday had their first opportunity to really take hold of something. And they swung at it like this, open-handed. They didn't take hold of anything, especially the running backs for sure, because they ran all over them. And so we got a lot to unpack. We're going to talk, SOL is an acronym that's been tossed around a lot. And I know there's a new, BNL, the brand new Lions, that's being thrown out there. But which team was
We're a
that
part
on
of that.
Saturday? Let's talk about that. And as always, we want to make sure that you are throwing up comments for us. We'll read them. We'll put them on air. We'll react to them. We would love to get into a conversation. But the first question, Eric, that we're going to talk about tonight is this. Was this loss to the Panthers just another instance of SOL? Please sound off in the comments. But Eric, I'm gonna throw it to you first. Is this SOL like literally rearing its head?
You know what? I feel like if it is SOL, it has to be applied correctly. And I think this is the part that's missed in the SOL conversation. There's SOL for the Lions and how they play, but it's also SOL, but with the fans and what we're accustomed to and what we're used to seeing. So, will the fans say it's SOL? Yes, I've seen a lot of that.
I've seen
For
a lot of
me,
it too.
I don't think it is. You have a team that, as we talked about, I think they were due for a game where they weren't going to look as sexy as they have. I didn't think it was going to result in a loss. It was we kind of expected it to look similar to what we saw with the Jets. Maybe not as, like I said, not really dynamic, but you were going to at least show you're the best team on the field. And I feel like even though they had a horrible game on both sides of the ball, it's so much to pick apart. It's so many players to get to. But I'm just to address the question directly for now. I don't think it's fair to call it SOL for this team based on how they've been playing still over the past 7 or 8 weeks, which has been productive and beneficial football. And they're also the youngest team, one of the youngest teams in the NFL. So they don't have, I don't think they've been that lionized mode yet. So I don't think it's fair to label this an SOL performance by them. I just don't think that's what we saw.
I think that it's very important what you said is how you apply the term SOL.
Yes.
Did they create a new way to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory? No, they didn't. They literally just were not prepared, as Dan Campbell said, which, like, to me, I have a little bit of an issue with that statement, and we can talk about that in a little bit.
Please.
Like, it's literally your job to be prepared.
Yeah.
So don't give me that, first of all. But, same old Lions. This isn't the same old Lions team. They've proved that over the last 6 weeks. So I'm not going to label this team in a way that says they're the same old Lions, because I don't think that they are.
Right.
But what happened on Saturday was SOL.
Wow.
In the sense that, not the team. I don't want to be very careful on how we apply this.
Right. Yes.
Not the team. But the fact that you are on the cusp of a playoff berth, literally could have been in the playoffs if you win that game, because everything else that needed to happen happened that weekend.
It did. Oh my god.
You would be sitting in the playoff picture right now had you won that game, but you didn't.
Yep.
You showed up and were more like the 1-6 team that we saw through the first 7 games than the 6-1 team that we saw over the last 7 games.
Yep.
And the situation, the circumstance is SOL.
Okay, that's fair.
For dropping the game that you were supposed to win. I mean, Bugs even came out after the game and said, we're the better team.
Yeah.
They just beat us today. Well, yeah, they didn't just beat you. They literally made you piss down your leg and run and hide in a corner.
Bad.
You were bullied from the get-go and ran and cowered away. That is the least grittiest thing I have seen. And it was the softest performance I've seen in a long time. That was brutal. And I think I text you, I think it was yesterday I text you, or maybe the day before.
I think, yeah.
And I go, I am legitimately, irrationally mad about the way that this game turned out because there was no fight.
No.
I don't care if you lose.
Right.
You play the game. The chips fall where they may. But the way that you lost,
can't happen.
It cannot happen.
You can't allow 240 rushing yards in the first half, 100 yards each to 2 different dudes, 570 yards total.
Chuba Hubbard had 106 yards on 6 carries in the first half.
Not Nick Chubb, not Derrick Henry. Like, no. This is the Panthers that have, even though they're in the playoff hunt just because of their horrible division, they're as motivated as you are. And you completely just embarrassed yourself.
They are as motivated because they're on the outskirts of a playoff berth too.
Yep.
They're second in the NFC South.
Yep.
And I mean, they're farther down on the wild card standings, obviously, at now 6-9. But like, that was that instance, that loss itself, that circumstance of that loss was losing to a team you were not supposed to lose to.
Mm-hmm.
That is SOL. This team is not SOL. I want to be very clear in that distinction.
Yes.
But what happened on Saturday was SOL, man.
It was.
It was SOL.
I kind of agree with what Charles is saying.
How?
I would say it was a good loss, but it taught. Yes, boom. That's, you don't want them to have that, but if a young team is going to go through these kind of growing pains, sure, these are the kind of games that you get, I don't want to say expect, but because again, the way it happened is just of epically disgusting proportions. To get blown up that much by a Sam Darnold-led offense where he's running the option on you in the goal line sets. It was so, DJ Moore completely bullying Jeff Okudah the whole game. Like, that was a bad performance overall.
I mean, and it was Calvin here that said, plain and simple, we weren't prepared, and Carolina was. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
They were. And it showed from the very first snap. Look, and here's maybe why. Maybe there's also a little bit of pride that's taking a hit for me because I wrote all the preview and prediction things last week.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote the preview and prediction that came out on Friday and I said the defense is going to set the tone early. Was my number one prediction.
Mm-hmm.
They set the tone early, but it wasn't the right tone. It was as off key as you could get.
Absolutely, it was.
And that was not great.
No.
When I saw Chuba rip off a 30-yard run on the first play of the game, I was like, whoa.
You could see it form too. Aiden Hutchinson crashing so hard on the inside. And he just opened up this huge gash to the outside. And then after that, it was everything up the middle that was just wide open for them to run through. I don't know what.
I don't necessarily know if Gavin is correct. I think he's got a point that there was kind of a look. Professional athletes have their routine, right? How much of it do we say was playing a Saturday messed up their routine? Their travel schedule was messed up because of the bomb cyclone that was supposed to happen that didn't happen, right? So there's definitely things like that. But at a certain point, like just say you got your butt whooped. Don't give me the field was as hard as a rock. I don't care because there were two teams playing on that field.
Exactly.
Save those comments for me because I don't care about that. Carolina found a way to make it work to their advantage. You did not, and you got beat. Austin, I think, has a good point, right? Did anyone think the Lions would be this competitive and on the cusp of a potential playoff hunt? No.
Not at all. No.
Not after 1-6, for sure.
No.
But at the same time, expectations can change. 3 weeks ago, I told you they would win out if they beat Minnesota because my expectations had changed.
Mm-hmm.
This is a team that I only saw going 6-10 or 6-11 this season.
Mm-hmm.
I did not have them winning more than 6 games. They've exceeded my expectations, so therefore my expectations have changed. So yeah, you're right, Austin. No, we don't think that they would have been competitive, and it's really exciting that they are competitive.
Exactly.
And I'm not giving up hope. They've got 2 more games and they still, to an extent, control their own destiny in the playoff hunt. Right. But you got to take care of business when it's time to take care of business. And they didn't. Oh, they didn't.
Yeah, that we got to get into that Dan Campbell quote now because this is maybe the second or third time he said, I didn't get them prepared. Like, it's one thing for us to see that on TV and assume, or for us to, guess that. But when you say it publicly, that's like those.
I don't like
if you heard that from a player, he would get destroyed.
Yeah.
Coaches saying that is never acceptable. It is literally your job to make sure you get off the bus and make sure your guys are dialed in.
Yeah. And I wonder how much of that was just like him trying to take blame and grabbing the first thing that he could think of, right? We didn't put him in the best position to win. That's a better reason than saying I didn't have them prepared.
Yes.
Because literally what you're saying is I didn't do my job for a week, which I don't believe. I actually do not believe that Dan Campbell didn't do his job last week.
Right.
I think that he just misspoke, is my personal opinion publicly expressed. Charles wonders if playing before the holiday has any type of mental impact. I'm sure that it probably does, but guess what? Every team played Saturday and Sunday, except for the Jets and the Jaguars who played Thursday night. And the Chargers and whoever's playing tonight. Okay, I get it, but you are a professional athlete.
Yep.
Your game is that Saturday. I don't care if Christmas, the New Year, or Hanukkah is starting on Saturday. You play the football game, and you play the football game to win.
Your job is to be prepared. Your job is to be ready for these games, regardless of what your schedule says.
Ricky thinks Dan's doing too many interviews.
maybe. Hey, and that goes back to what we were saying.
Which is also literally his job, though. He does have to speak to the media. So
yeah, I mean,
I don't think we can say no, we're gonna hide him in a back closet so he can't do any more interviews.
Nope. Yup. He's the face of the team.
I don't know.
No. Go ahead.
The defense was terrible.
Yes.
The offense also was terrible.
Yep.
Yes, Jared Goff threw for 355 yards.
Didn't move me.
Congratulations. Most of that was in the fourth quarter when you're down by 3 scores. And we got a Matt Stafford for being Stat Padford. But that's essentially what this was for Jared Goff. This was not a good performance by Goff either.
No.
It wasn't. It for sure was not a good performance by the offensive line. They go up 2 sacks. Our rushing average. You know who the leading rusher on Saturday was?
God, who was it?
Take a guess.
I barely remember Jamal Williams playing. I'll guess and say it was DeAndre Swift just because.
It was Jared Goff. 3 rushes for 15 yards.
Oh, it was that one rush he had up the gut that probably.
DeAndre Swift ran the ball 4 times for 12 yards, and Jamal Williams ran the ball 7 times for 11 yards.
And what I've learned, and see, this is why. And people don't want to hear this. People don't want to hear this.
Austin nailed it. He nailed it before I even said it. He was right on the money.
This is why I know where you stand on this conversation. It is only one quarterback that I'm okay with. But again, at this point, I don't rule out at any point where the Lions want to upgrade a quarterback position, because what we learn about Goff in games like this is if everything's not on script, he's not effective. If he has to ad-lib, if he has to move, if he has to try to extend a play, that's not how he moves. And this offense looks like it should be predicated off of that with the athletic, shifty, gadget type of players you have. With a robot like Goff under center, it just limits you so much. So, even looking at, if anybody paid attention to Twitter and saw Jameson Williams liking some tweets about frustration, and granted, I don't want them over prioritizing him, but what they're doing with him is ridiculous.
Well, and he also needs to check himself a bit. Like, you're coming off an injury. Hold on a second. Like, you're coming off an injury and saying you're not getting involved a month. They'll get you involved, and they need to get him involved. I agree with you 100%. Don't do anything that's going to make you the diva of the locker room, please.
But
don't be that
wrong.
guy.
I agree.
He's not wrong, but that's not Detroit.
Sure. But again, he's looking at how they're using him. If you're playing him like this, why not just sit him for the season? Putting him in one play per drive, like he's barely, like Goff is underthrowing him and skipping the ball in the dirt. Like
I also wonder how much the field, if we're using that as an excuse, how much of the field had to play into that. He had 1 target on Saturday. I don't know. I think Charles has an interesting question here. I want you to answer this, and then I will give you my answer. But here's a good question. At this point, regardless of the loss, Goff versus Stafford, who do you think is having a better season 2 years in?
2 years in? Who's having a better... So who's played better 2 years in based on what they've done so far?
Who's having a better season this year?
Just this season? I mean,
that's 2 years in. That's what the question is.
So 2 years. So it's not this season. It's 2 years in.
It's last year and this year.
From last year to this year. Okay, who's been better? Gosh. You know what? I think a Super Bowl kind of just separates everything, and I think that's the only thing. If Stafford doesn't have that Super Bowl, maybe it's a conversation. But again, he got to the playoffs, helped get Cooper Kupp the Triple Crown. I think that season alone, and then based on how bad the Lions were, even with how good Goff and the offenses look this year, I still think, that edge would be for Stafford, I think.
I legitimately listen. I'm all for supporting our guys. Like, Goff's our quarterback. He's going to be our quarterback next year. We've already kind of resigned ourselves to that fact.
Right.
But let me ask you a question, and maybe I'll ask this question to the commenters too. Would this team be 7-8 if Matthew Stafford were its quarterback?
I don't think so. I don't think they lose. I don't think they go 1-6 with Stafford under center to start off.
Not at all.
I don't think.
And I can't. Like the fact that we are comparing these two guys, they are universes apart. They are not the same quarterback.
Right.
They are not the same quarterback. This team would not be 7-8 if Jared Goff or if Matt Stafford were its quarterback still.
Right.
Jared Goff is doing well in this system because of the offensive line that he has and the weapons that he has. Why is Matt Stafford basically his career on its deathbed right now?
Their O line
Because he has
is made of
no
paper,
offensive line to speak of.
and
They're
their
Swiss
run game is
cheese.
horrible. The run
He's
game
on
is
his
horrible
back
too.
constantly.
Yep.
So to compare numbers and to just look at a box score, yeah, it looks like Goff's having a better season, and he is statistically. But is he the better quarterback?
No.
No. Ricky says we're doing revisionist history now. I don't think we are.
Really?
I don't think we are.
No.
At all.
We're assessing these two quarterbacks. I mean, Goff is in a very good situation.
Ricky. So, like, was Ricky a Stafford guy or he hates Stafford?
Stafford, no, he likes Stafford. So I'm kind of confused with his take on that. I don't think this is revisionist history. I think if you look at what you could put Stafford in with this O-line, these weapons, the creativity of Ben Johnson, we saw how he played well with Sean McVay. So another creative mind for him to work with. I don't think that's revisionist history.
And listen, we're not gonna sit here and relitigate like should that trade have happened. That trade 100% should have happened. Okay, 100% should have happened.
Work for
both sides. It worked out. The Rams got their Super Bowl. We collected draft picks, and that trade made the Lions a better franchise, or it had the potential to make the Lions a better franchise. Jared Goff is completely serviceable for what we need right now.
At this moment, yeah.
But beyond 2023, if he is still the quarterback, they will never get where they need to go. And I have said that, and I will continue to say that. I'm not necessarily saying you have to draft a quarterback in this first round. That's not what I'm saying.
Right.
You still have Jared Goff for a year. And I know the bust rate of first-round quarterbacks is a lot higher than the success rate. I understand the numbers. But if you look at Jared Goff on the road versus Jared Goff at Ford Field,
night and day.
He has a 105 rating at Ford Field, and he had an 85 rating on the road. It's obviously going to be lower now. I just listen. I'm not going to sit here and say we got to get rid of him right now because I'm done doing that. I'm done doing that. He's okay when the offense is clicking, but the moment that we got down by 2 scores. That game was over.
Yep.
The game was over. He was not coming back.
Yep.
Ricky thinks it's a running back problem. I mean, Swift has his issues, for sure. I don't think that Goff can get you there. The Rams got to the Super Bowl with Jared Goff in spite of Jared Goff. If you look at those playoff numbers, the playoff numbers for Jared Goff are not great. Now, statistically, is he playing well? Yeah, he is. And I, again, resigned to the fact that he's going to be our quarterback in 2023. I have no problem with that. But last year, he was the most turnover-prone quarterback in the NFL. He's done a great job protecting the ball over the last 7 games. But part of the reason why we were 1-6 in the first 7 games is because he was not good at protecting the ball.
I also think it's fair to say that a lot of his success is due to a horrible NFC. Looking at a lot of quarterbacks that have been hurt.
I don't want to cut you off, but I got to address this real quick. Ricky, no, that's not what I'm saying. No. That's not what I'm saying at all. The way that entire team played on Saturday, my high school football team probably would have beat them. They were not good on Saturday. Okay, that was hyperbole. Don't think I'm crazy, okay? But Stafford doesn't change the outcome of Saturday at all. But I think that Stafford does change the outcome of the first 7 games. I bet you're looking more at like a 4-3, looking more maybe at a 5-2. I don't think you lose the game against the Vikings if Stafford's your quarterback.
No.
I don't think you lose the game maybe even against Dallas if he's your quarterback. But that was after the bye week too. But like I think that he would have added a few more wins than Goff would have.
He would. I definitely think so. That's not revisionist history. That's just looking at how Stafford is played. Stafford is a quarterback that improvs well. Like he plays on the fly. He can move the pocket, has a strong, tight window throwing arm.
Now listen, I think Goff has a strong arm too.
Goff. Yeah.
The issue is not Goff getting the ball there. I have no issue with his arm strength. I have a lot of issue with his deep ball accuracy.
Exactly.
Completely different thing. But we're like we're getting way off topic, and that's okay. The offense hasn't been good the past 2 games. If Khalif Raymond doesn't give us a TD against the Jets, that's another loss. And Calvin's not wrong.
That's a whole fact.
Calvin's not wrong, and that's a good like the Jets have a good defense, and the Panthers' defense is not terrible. And that just worries me a little bit of all these like, oh, Goff's our guy. Like, he's played well against teams that don't have great defenses, and the teams that do have good defenses. New England, he didn't do anything. Dallas, he didn't do anything.
Nothing.
You know, so I don't know. I don't know. Ricky's saying, let's go get him back. Let's go get Stafford back. Like, no, listen.
We don't need to do all that.
The question was asked. Like, it was just a simple question. Who's having the better year 2 years in? And I'm telling you, like, Goff statistically is having a better year. I can admit that. I'm not saying we need to go back and get Stafford, but if we're going to ask that question, then I'm going to follow that up with a question is, would the Lions be better?
Right.
Would the Lions be better?
Like, Matt
was their quarterback.
Goff's not going to like the Saints and like putting up these kind of numbers. He works well with what he has here. And again, the NFC is so disappointing this season. Like the whole division is horrible in the South. The West, like basically every quarterback that starts there has been hurt. Yeah. Like everything has been so weird. The NFC East is the best division in the NFC.
And they were one of the worst.
When is the last time we've been able to say that? Exactly. For years. Like what the South is doing, that's what the NFC East has been playing like. So now, no, I think Goff is to be able to thrive under what the circumstances are.
This is an interesting question.
You guys think the Lions are going to draft a running back or trade this 2 first-round picks and Goff for Lamar Jackson? No,
I'm not doing it.
No.
As high as we were and as much as we wanted Lamar Jackson, I'm not parting with those 2 first-round picks to get a quarterback.
Austin, I wanted it. I wrote about it. It's on the website, DetroitSportsStation.com. I wanted it. It was a good idea to start, but
it's not a good idea
at this point. It's not a good idea.
And listen, Goff again in this offense with Goff is okay for what we have. But if you are competing for a Super Bowl, I don't think, through my watching of games and reviewing the tape, I don't think he gets you over that hump.
I'm gonna revisit Austin's. I see your question, Austin. I'm gonna revisit that when we talk about something a little bit later. Okay. We're gonna get into the Lions draft.
Yes, we will. Playoff scenarios and draft.
Let's get back to that question. We'll get back to that, Austin. I got you.
But I'm assuming, Austin, your question is, why is that? Why do I think that Goff is not the guy that could get them over that hump? If that's your question, I'll answer it quickly, and then we will move on. Here's the thing. With Goff, in my tape watch consistently, and Eric knows I watch tape like at least 3 times before we do the show. I watch the game, and if I can watch it in the all 22, the coach's view, I do as much as I can. His reads are not always great. His ball placement is well below average, and his inability to throw the ball deep accurately is a problem. So there were specific times against the Eagles game, going back against the Eagles game, they brought an all-out blitz on him with Hockenson running behind the blitz. And as a quarterback, your hot read is you always throw off of the blitz. And he double pumps and throws outside to a 10-yard out route that was in the area of 2 guys. It's just he's not smart with the football. You've seen how good he can be, and I want to give him props because the last 7 games, he has protected the ball very well. And you've seen how smart he can be and how good he can be when he's playing smart. But the problem is you don't always get that. With Stafford, you knew what you were getting, right? And just to bring this just apples to apples, right? With Stafford, you knew you had a guy that trusted his arm strength and would throw the ball into tight windows and was more of a gunslinger, elite arm talent type quarterback. Jared Goff is not an elite arm talent type quarterback, which means he needs to be a smart quarterback. And he hasn't done that. And a lot of our losses, the loss to Seattle, what's he do on the first drive out of halftime? Throws a pick 6, puts us down 14. Throws a pick 6 against Philadelphia. Threw a pick against Dallas. Right? It's whether that's miscommunication with the wide receivers or whatever else, it's just not the type of guy I want leading an offense when it comes down to crunch time, because now you're going to start playing better defenses, and those better defenses are going to expose how
he really is.
rough he can be. Yeah.
Exactly.
Take some questions real quick, okay?
Yeah, let's do that.
I'll be right back.
Quite a few poured in, no problem. Keep talking to us, guys. I know it's been a tough season, or a tough week to recap for, but Ricky wants to know, how many Stafford Lion playoff wins do we have? We don't have any. We don't have any on this team. Again, I don't think it comes down to a quarterback play, though. I think it speaks more to what is set up around him. Stafford was in a position where he could kind of hide some of the cracks of the roster of this team. And we kind of see that with teams like Kansas City, where the greatness of Patrick Mahomes masks the up and down play of their offensive line, their invisible run game, having, a makeshift receiving core at times, losing a Tyreek Hill. Stafford was able to mask those errors or those holes that the Lions had. Like, they haven't always been a flawless team, but his play was able to keep them in those kind of situations. So I don't think their lack of playoff wins goes specifically to Stafford. Like, I understand what you guys are saying. I understand, Ricky. But again, Goff, I think, is set up better with what's around him. Like, again, I don't think he could go to some different team and perform like this and look like arguably a top 10 quarterback. Like, I don't think that's not Goff's game. And I think that's kind of what we're trying to say. I don't think the quarterback for the future is currently on this roster. They'll hopefully maybe look into it in the draft. They'll maybe take a look at it, in other moves with Brad Holmes. But as of right now, I think we can agree that that position for the future is still open. It's not Goff. It's not definitively shut by Jared Goff right now. It's just not.
Yeah, and sorry about that. But to answer Ricky's question here, like the quarterback next year is Jared Goff.
Right.
Like, there's no doubt about that, and that's okay.
Just for next year, right.
But his contract is going to be up, and you cannot pay him $35 to $40 million a year for the type of production that you're getting from him. For all the reasons that I laid out there of his ability to play quarterback, like, if he wants to take a pay cut and be our quarterback for a few years down the road, okay, I'm more okay with that, because that allows us to get elite in other places. Cannot pay him elite money and expect to win as well. So Charles asks, is Swift's even the number one back on the team anymore?
Who knows?
Nobody knows.
Who knows, dude? He has been unbelievably just bizarre since the first week. He looked like a top 5 running back the first week, and Lord knows what to make of it right now. It sucks seeing where he's got to at this point.
And Ricky says, if we give Goff a top 10 running back in the league, we go to the playoffs, in my opinion. You're probably right.
Sure.
And the same thing was also said about Stafford, who never had a running game.
Right. Lions are 16th in rushing now. Yeah, they were at top 10 at a certain point.
They were
dropped off recently.
And a lot of that has to do with Swift's inability to hit a hole and get upfield. Jamal Williams, I think, has never had a workload like he's had, because he was the main guy when Swift was out, and you can kind of maybe see the wear and tear and the fuel running out of the tank a little bit for Jamal. So they've got to find a way to get creative. I mean, and go back to our conversation about Jameson Williams. Get this dude on a jet sweep.
Please.
Get this dude on a tunnel screen. Get this dude on a quick slant.
Yes.
Like, there's different ways to run the ball than actually stepping back and handing the ball off 5 yards deep in the backfield.
Right.
You can extend and be creative in your run game without having to go, here's a handoff to the left. Here's a handoff to the, like, fine. And Ben Johnson knows this. He's creative enough to make it happen.
Yes,
I'm going to be very interested to see, how they utilize Jameson in Ford Field against the Bears needing a win on Sunday. Because I bet you see different utilization out of him.
Yeah, you could use him in those Khalif Raymond type roles. Like, you absolutely can put him in as a scat just to get him comfortable and involved. Like, him just doing wind sprints and deep runs is not necessary.
But again, to Austin's point here, right? There's been one bad underthrow of Jameson Williams, and that was the one against the Jets. That was awful.
Right. Yep.
Okay.
Could have had a touchdown.
It's not an arm strength issue. It's an accuracy deep that is the issue. So, Austin, we're not concerned about the arm strength. Arm strength is there. He can make the throw. Can he make the throw accurately? You saw that in, was it the Bills game that he missed DJ Chark by like 7 yards? I think it was the Bills game, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that was in.
And like it just horribly inaccurate. So, Eric, let's talk to the people about our socials, and then we'll head on to our next topic. Wherever you're at on social media right now, make sure that you like and subscribe to Detroit Sports Nation. You can find us on YouTube. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and pound that bell so you get notifications for when we go live, when we drop our news desk videos, and all of those different things so that you can stay on top of Detroit sports news, because we cover everything.
Yeah.
Now, Eric.
Yes.
We have to talk about the playoffs because this team is still in the playoff hunt.
Mm-hmm.
And we also are concerned about draft positioning. So we're going to do all of this at once because the way the Lions have played, their draft pick in the first round is going to be outside the top 10. We know this.
Yeah.
Which is okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because we had the Rams faltering through injury and all these other things. That was, last week, if I'm not mistaken, the 4th pick overall.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was 4.
Now, it's the 7th pick overall. So let's talk about the draft, and then let's get into the playoffs, as Ricky would say. Playoffs? You're talking about playoffs, right?
Yes.
Draft.
Yeah.
This draft in 2023, regardless of where the picks are at, and obviously we want them to be higher picks.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, we want one really high pick and we want one really late pick. That goes into our perfect season ending, which we're going to talk about in a little bit.
In a perfect world.
In a perfect world. I'm going to go on record right now and say 2023's draft in April is the most important draft of this franchise's entire history.
Sorry, the hot's blowing that off for you.
It's the most important draft.
Okay.
You've done well in the previous 2 drafts, Brad Holmes.
Yep.
You have to nail this draft.
Mm-hmm.
You have to nail this draft.
Okay. I'm actually okay with that now because I'm considering all the resources. I'm considering the extra picks they have, the 2 1s, the 2 2s. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on that. I think I'm getting sick of Baker Mayfield and the Rams right now, losing an alternate position. But yeah, I feel like a lot can change though, because if you look at it, it's not to me. I don't think it's a consensus that Bryce Young goes number 1 overall yet. Like, considering
if it's the Texans, he's going number 1. It'd be him or Stroud number 1. If it's the Texans,
maybe. But what we know now, Bryce Young is not playing no more football. Georgia has at least 1 or 2 more games. Jalen Carter, I think, can establish himself as the number 1 overall pick with these next 2 games. I don't think that's out the question. People love primetime performances. I don't think that's out of the question that he could show out and maybe change some minds.
Not at the Houston Texans. They haven't had a quarterback since Deshaun Watson left, man. They're drafting a quarter. If the Texans, wherever the Texans are drafting, 1 or 2, because Chicago could be number 1.
Okay.
Wherever the Texans draft, they're drafting one of the quarterbacks.
But again, it's not. I'm saying Bryce Young is not a foregone conclusion that he'll be number 1. So I don't think it's a lot that could change. I think in these next few weeks for like positioning, prospects, everything. I love this because normally like these things are kind of figured out like right around this time. But the Lions got a lot of holes. Ricky hit it for sure. Linebackers, you need another quarterback.
Exposed
badly. You need another defensive lineman to add to the depth that you have now. You kind of got a best player available at this point for the defense. I think that's what they're going to look at. I don't think running back is out of the question from what we've talked about before. Really, the only thing you're not going to get is a receiver high. I think everything else. I think everything else is on the table at this point for this team of the draft.
And I have said before, and I will say again, you do not use a first-round pick on a quarterback this year.
Okay.
I as much as I just railed on Goff, he's good enough for 2023.
Okay.
You don't use it.
Okay.
Unless the only way is, let's say the Rams pick ends up like 11 and you're picking like 19, right? I don't know. That I'm just throwing out numbers there. That would be terrible. First,
yeah, that's a huge drop off from where they was at. But yeah,
let's say that like a Bryce Young falls to 11, Bryce Young falls to 12, maybe. He's the only one though. I would not take CJ Stroud either.
We're together on that. He's the only quarterback I'm okay with him gambling high on. That's the only one.
And I wouldn't. If our pick is within the top 10, I wouldn't take him.
Okay.
You've got Joey Porter Jr. from Penn State that's going to be out there in the mid picks.
Love him.
To solidify that corner spot. If you're picking in the top 3, you're guaranteed either Will Anderson or Davis. And those, if it's anyone other than those two in the top, one of those two in the top 3, then you've blown the draft in my opinion, because of how significantly bad this defense has been. I mean, they got exposed. But this is, and I think that Joseph was asking why I think this is the most significant draft in the Lions history, because of what you've done in 2022. You went through hard knocks. You've had 2 really good draft classes, and the 2 draft classes that you've had are contributing to the 6 wins out of 8 games that you've had now. Hutchinson, Malcolm Rodriguez, Kirby Joseph, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Penei Sewell, Aleem McNeil, right? All of these names are guys that have been drafted and are making significant impacts in these wins. This draft is the most important because it hopefully is the highest you'll be drafting for a few years. You get another generational talent to add to that stack, and then you supplement it with whoever that second first-round pick is. Then, oh, by the way, you also have 2 second-round picks. Another opportunity to add great talent to that core. Oh, and then, by the way, you also have 3 more picks. No, I'm sorry, 1 more pick in the top 75. You have 5 picks in the top 75. You have to nail those 5 picks. For sustained success. Because 1, all 3 years of that draft class, from Penei Sewell's to Hutchinson's to this one coming up, are all on rookie contracts. You can afford to have somebody like a Goff making what he's making for another year, maybe 2 years, if you have all those guys on rookie contracts. When they start needing to get paid, that's when it starts to become a problem. So this is the year that you have to nail that draft class.
And I want to answer Austin's question, because he said he wanted to possibly entertain the idea of the Lions maybe going after Lamar. Now, I don't think they should at this point. We've talked enough about how bad this defense is. I will meet you halfway and say I think they have the resources to be in the conversation. If they're mentioned in there, I won't be surprised. I don't want them to be, but I'm not going to be surprised if they're mentioned as one of those teams in the conversation. I won't be shocked.
You cannot do it because of the holes that you have. You cannot do it because you need that draft capital this year. You can't, as much as I would love to see Lamar Jackson in this offense to actually have weapons. I mean, Ricky and Charles were talking about it. You have to fix your defense. You have to, which is part of the reason why I was not thrilled with the Jameson Williams pick last year at all. I get it. I understand it, but I was not thrilled with it because you had prime defensive players still on the board and would have been on the board if you didn't even trade with Minnesota.
I get it. Again, based on how this offense is playing, they got a DJ Shark, who honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they brought him back next season. I feel like they still want to have another speedster within this offense, and I think having him with J-Mo, I think is what they want to do. I feel like I saw that question from Charles. Has Hutch been worth going at 2? I've always believed so, but what are your thoughts? Yeah, he's lived up to the bill at this point. He's looked like the best edge rusher. But looking at this draft, though, there's a life where he could be your number 2 guy. If you get Will Anderson, Hutch is going to be your number 2, and that's completely fine.
Yeah,
if that's what you have, you have a
I don't know, Joseph. I don't know if we're giving you the impression that we think that Brad Holmes is a dummy, because I do not. I think he's a genius, and I think that he has done phenomenal. So if we have at all, if I have made you think or whatever that we do not trust Brad Holmes, he is the reason we are in the position that we're in, because he has given the players to Dan Campbell, and Dan Campbell has motivated them to get to where they're at. So no, Brad is not a dummy.
Look at the Quinn Trisha draft classes.
Oof.
That's the dummy. Look at the flops in the classes that those guys have from 2019 to 2018.
Tavai.
Oh my, literally flop on an entire year.
Draft grade
2019 from top to bottom is horrible. You have Brad Holmes, who's hitting on 6 or 5 out of 6 and 6 out of 7. Like, he's done unbelievable. And with this extra resources available to him, no, I have all the faith in the world going into this offseason. No matter where the Lions end up at in the draft.
We're giving Joseph a lot of screen time here, which is fine. Like, I love the interaction. Bryce will be a good NFL. He could be.
Depending on where he's in. Yeah.
Listen, being a good NFL quarterback is more about the situation that you go to than anything else. Like, you're finally starting to see that with Trevor Lawrence, who was supposed to be like the next generational guy. He was terrible because of the situation that he was in with Urban Meyer. You get Doug Peterson in there, and he's starting to turn things around.
Mac Jones.
Another situation, right?
Dirty Mac Jones.
Let's talk about the playoffs, too, because that is what we are talking about, right? We have, the draft is nice to think about, but we don't have to worry about the draft until April.
Yep.
And it's going to take care of itself. Like, we have literally no control over that. And I'm under the impression, I know you are too, that the Lions official pick, not the one that they got from the Rams, but the Lions official pick, we would like to see it as late as possible, meaning that they had the most success possible this season.
Right.
The Rams pick is going to be what the Rams pick is. Hopefully, apparently, like, I'm right about Baker Mayfield, even though I'm mad that I'm right about Baker Mayfield, because I want him to not be good and stop winning games for the doggone Rams.
Godly.
Right? I know.
I'll play Russell
we cannot
Wilson.
get through a show without mentioning this guy, and I'm mad that I have to, because I don't want him to keep winning.
He's become a staple of the show.
Goodness gracious. Anyways, that's beside the point. The Lions control, to an extent, their own destiny. And what I mean by that is they have to win the next 2 games. If they lose at all, they're going to be out. Like, there's just, because of the tie between the Commanders and the Giants, they're going to end up on the outside looking in, which would be, for all we've said about the draft, worst case scenario. You have a later pick, but you didn't even get the playoffs because of it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad that they're winning, because I am of firm belief, and it's been confirmed through other people that I know that are in the professional sports realm, that there is a thing of learning how to win.
Yes.
You have to learn how to win. You have to learn how to find that thing within you that gets you over that hump. So I'm glad that they're doing this, even if it is sacrificing a draft pick to a certain extent. However, 3 teams are ahead of the Lions right now in the playoff standings.
Yep.
The Giants, who are most likely in, they've got Indianapolis at home this weekend, and then they go on the road week 18 to Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
What's interesting, though, is that Philadelphia does not have the NFC East wrapped up yet.
Nope, that's not over.
If they lose this weekend to the Saints, then week 18 matters for them and for Dallas.
Huge.
Which works to the Lions' benefit.
Mm-hmm.
Because then they have to play their players against the Giants, and Dallas has to play their players against the Commanders.
Mm-hmm.
If Philly wins this weekend, neither of those 2 teams need to play their players week 18.
Right.
They're both already in the playoffs. They can get kind of like that extra bye week, right? The seeding will be set.
Mm-hmm.
The Commanders have Cleveland at home, Dallas at home.
Mm-hmm.
Seattle has the New York Jets and the Rams at home.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like this.
I don't like
the Lions
it at all.
obviously have the Bears at home, and they have Green Bay on the road.
An extremely motivated Green Bay.
And extremely man, one time I want them to go in there, beat Aaron Rodgers when it matters, so he would just shut up. Be like, oh, one of those teams is 500. You heard him say that, right?
Yeah, you knew he couldn't wait to get that off, too. He said that like 3 times. Said on McAfee, the post game.
You know what will earn instant respect from me from Jared Goff? If he goes into Lambeau, beats the Packers when it means something, and then goes, hey, Aaron, I own you. Then I'll be like, okay, sign him till he dies. just sign him till he dies.
So that team is no longer 500, huh? Talk about
Right.
that.
Right. But how is this gonna play out, man?
Oh man, it's not gonna be easy. The roller coaster of emotions for this season has been nuts, and now with these last two games, with two teams that are not gonna give you anything, I'm very nervous about how this plays out. Again, the Lions are in a position where they control their own destiny. They have wins against
They
teams
still
that they
need
need
help,
wins
though.
on.
They will still need help.
They still
Even
need
if
help.
they win both games, they could end up outside the playoffs, because if they win both games and Washington wins both of their games, they'd be they'd be in, because they'd be 9-7-1 and we would be 9-8.
Yep.
If Seattle wins both of their games, they have the tiebreaker over us. Yep. So you need Seattle and Washington to lose, preferably this weekend, so that all you have to do in Green Bay is go in and win the game.
Right.
Because if Washington loses this weekend but they beat Dallas at home, they're 8-1. If Seattle loses, they would be 9. They'd be, and then they win their final game, they'd be 8-9.
Yep.
And the Lions would be 9-8 and sneak in. So I just really, 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 you really need them to take care of business against the Bears.
Yeah.
And you really need them to. I don't want to have to wait for people to lose. Like, can the Commanders and the Seahawks just lose this weekend? That's what I need. That's what I need for my sanity. That's what I need.
Okay, well, let's talk about that then, because you saw a graphic that actually spoke to what would give Lions fans some resolve that would make them believers that this isn't an SOL season, that they actually believe that he speaks to what Joseph just said. If it ain't rough, it ain't right. And I feel like there's a lot of that. A lot of the Lions fans want us to put the stake in the heart of Green Bay as like the cleanse of this franchise to show that they're taking that step forward. Do you think they need that? Like, is that where they're at?
Well, so let me reference a graphic. So this is it was in the Detroit Lions fans Facebook group, and it's by Finney and Tobiah Mack. So this might be a first. It might sound, excuse me, a little crazy, but I'm rooting for Green Bay. I don't want it easy for Detroit. I want them playing their best the next 2 weeks. And after beating the Bears, what better way to head into the playoffs than beating the Packers? It'll be like a new regime setting their mark and sending the old regime packing. If we can't beat them, we shouldn't be in the playoffs anyways. I don't want to go to the playoffs to just say we made it, we got in. I want them all business and thinking they can win a playoff game and not just giddy for being there. And, like Finian, you know what? Like, I agree with that. 100% I agree with that.
I agree like 80% with that. If you weren't leaning on a bunch of rookies, then I would say, okay, like if this was a Stafford-led organization where he's been here forever, it's veteran talent around him, it's talent that should be taking that step and showing that they're for real. I feel like this rookie team taking that kind of a step, it might be too much for them to chew off in their first season. To me, I feel it sucks that that's the step, because
it's not their first season.
I feel like the fans, for the fans, it's different though, because our standards are higher than I think that what we're expecting right now. Like, you could argue they've surpassed some expectations just on how they played the last 8 games. But
listen, the theory behind that is 100% correct. Look, I saw somebody else say this today. Like, all of Michigan, when Ohio State got into the college football playoff, I can't believe they backed their way in. And then now we're all like, oh man, we really hope that everybody loses so that we can get into the playoffs. Right? So, like, you want Green Bay on the cusp of a playoff berth and Detroit on the cusp of a playoff berth, and the winner of that game goes to the playoffs. There's no better experiential teaching, learning how to win. We've already established this.
Right.
Then that game would be. Go and play. Go and win and earn your way there. Yeah. I'm 100% on board with that. 100% on board with that.
So if they don't, then what does that mean?
You put it in your coffer. And you say, we were here last year. We didn't get it done. How can we learn and get better? Because you learn more through losing than you do through winning.
But and that's fine. But to me, where fans go overboard is then putting SOL on it.
No, I don't think it would be.
To me,
Here's the deal. I'm gonna cut you off on this one.
Go
for a
ahead.
second
Yeah,
because
I see.
I said the way that they lost on Saturday was SOL. They go out and take care of business against Chicago, and they put themselves in a position to win in Green Bay, go into the playoffs. And let's say that they lose. They lose by 7. They lose by 10. But it's a competitive game. That's not SOL. By any stretch of the imagination, that's not SOL.
Okay.
And I would never even label that SOL. Now, they go into Green Bay and show up like they did in Carolina. We got a little bit of a different scenario because they didn't learn from 2 weeks previously.
Okay. That's fair.
Is that fair?
That's fair. That's fair. They can't. Yeah, they definitely can't lose. They cannot go on a 3-game skid to close us out. I feel like, to me,
that would be.
We keep talking about where SOL represents. It's not just how they play, but also I think this where our expectations are at, and they should be high based on what we've seen how the NFC sits, seeing what the opportunity is that's in front of you. I think we're helping set kind of the expectation of crushing SOL.
Oh yeah.
Again, they're being a young team. I think it's important to keep that in mind, though. These kind of games, I don't want to say they're expected, but like I don't expect them to just keep looking this great overall. Again, we said they could win out, but it was going to be some games that look a little murky. We might see that these last 2 as well, but they should still be able to come away with some wins as well.
So real quick, and then we'll get to our picks. What's your perfect ending to this season? Which seems like an obvious question, like, Super Bowl.
All right. Right, exactly. And some people have that. There's a lot of different levels, but for me, I want 2 things. Well, 3, I guess you could say. I want to win out. I want them to win these last 2. But for me, there's 2 things I want to complete it and really make for my Super Bowl. Putting the stake in the heart of Aaron Rodgers, keeping him out of the playoffs, and of some possibility based on the seedings, we put the stake in the heart of Tom Brady and sit him down.
That'd be like a second round matchup. So you
would that be? It would have to be the second round at that point.
Yeah, because what's going to end up happening? Now? Like, so the Cowboys or the Eagles are locked into the 5th spot.
Right.
If the Eagles, I mean. The Vikings are most likely locked into 2.
Okay.
49ers are most likely locked into 3.
Mm-hmm.
And then if the Bucks win the NFC South, which they're most likely going to do because the only team that can challenge them is Carolina.
Right.
They'll be locked in at 4.
Okay.
Which means that the Lions would have to win a playoff game, most likely in Minnesota, and then I don't. That might even be like a NFC Championship game matchup. The way the seedings are.
That's fine. Like I said, it might take a lot to get there. This is my perfect scenario season. Taking him down would be the ultimate statement for me that I would love to see. Again, I don't want to put too much on their plate in terms of where they got to go.
You don't want to put too much on their plate. You got them in an NFC Championship game with. You understand?
See, I don't want that. No.
Listen.
That.
You basically just said that you want them to take Brady down. In order for them to take Brady down, guess where they're going? The Super Bowl. No,
they're not getting the Super Bowl though.
It would happen in the NFC Championship game.
That's fine.
That would mean that they're going to the Super Bowl, and you don't want to put too much on them?
Fine, then let me have my fantasy world in. That's my fantasy of what I want from them. The realism of them, just win out. We had that conversation before. I want them to win out against whoever won. I would love to see them take Brady out. That's what I want to see.
Charles is spot on here. He said, happy with the season. Whatever happens, happens. We know they need to draft defense. Teachable games against playoff teams in the hunt.
Yes.
Rookie. Yeah, Charles, that's the nail on the head right there. Perfect ending for my season is what you said. You win out, right? The chips are going to fall where they may. You control your destiny to the extent that you have to win, okay? You have to win.
Mm-hmm.
So win those 2 games. And if you don't get in the playoffs because the other teams win out too, okay, I'm fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's other games that you should have won that you didn't previous, and you learn from those games and you move on to 2023.
Right.
I do not believe that momentum carries over from season to season. So just because they like maybe sneak into the playoffs this year, I don't think that means that it's going to carry over to 2023.
NFL
But
changes too
what
much.
I firmly believe is that experience carries over from year to year.
Sure.
And so these games meaning something in December means something for 2023 and beyond.
Right.
And so I just want to play competitive. Don't play like you played like the 1-6 team on Saturday.
Right.
Play like the 6-1 team these next 2 weeks.
Yep.
That's the perfect ending. I don't care what happens after that.
Exactly.
I literally do not care. They match up with Minnesota in the playoffs. If they're there, fantastic, because I think that gives us an advantage.
Mm-hmm.
But I do not want to see you play like you played on Saturday anymore. I'm done with that team.
Yes.
I want to see the 6-1 team.
Gotta set this one.
We got to get to our picks, and then we've got to bounce. So let's get to our week 17. Man, it's week 17 already. Holy cow. Again, we've been picking games that are affecting or will affect the Detroit Lions and their playoff outcome. Eric, you picked up a game on me last week. You are 48-28 on the season. I'm 47-29. Thank you, Matt, for picking the New York Jets on a Thursday night.
Appreciate you, big dog.
Quarterback. I feel like I got sandbagged there, but it is what it is. Who do you got? Indianapolis traveling to the Meadowlands to play the New York Giants.
The Colts are the most embarrassing team in football. There's no way you could pay me to pick them. I'll take the Giants by default.
I'm going contrarian. I think the Giants are going to lose a game they shouldn't lose, and I'm going with Indianapolis.
You're out of your mind.
I am.
You're out of your mind.
I am out of my mind, but in order for me to catch you, I have to take some risks, and this is one of those risks. Like, I think the Colts have a good enough defense to like contain Saquon, not shut him down, but contain him. And if you make Daniel Jones beat you, he's rarely going to do that, in my opinion. So I'm going to go with the Giants.
So
I'm going to go with Indianapolis. Huh?
If Nick Foles to do so. He's playing tonight, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, no problem. You got it.
BD Nick. All right, Cleveland at Washington.
I'm gonna go with Washington. I think they're playing inspired. I think they're pretty underrated offensively, and Cleveland is just too fluky up and down all season. I don't like the way they play on either side of the ball at this point. I'm gonna go with Washington.
I'm going Cleveland.
Okay.
I'm going Cleveland. I'm going all heart at this point. Like, but look, I think Deshaun Watson and Amari Cooper can get enough going. I don't think the Commanders' defense is good enough to stop them, and I think the Cleveland Browns' defense is good enough to stop Taylor Heineke. So
wow,
I'm gonna go with Cleveland and hope that I'm right. I have the wrong game here. It's
the Seattle plays the Jets.
Yeah, you're right. Okay.
Yeah.
Is all the New York team. So
Jets
at
cool.
Seattle.
Yep. Jets at Seattle, and then I think Mike White is going to be.
Mike White is starting for them, so that is a piece of information that you should know.
Yeah. No, I'm not picking the Jets. I'll take the Seahawks.
And we are.
Go ahead, be gutsy again.
I'm taking them. I'm taking the Mike Whites. You know why? Because if Mike White had started against the Lions, I think that we lose that game.
I think you're tripping on that one too. No, I don't think so. He's not as good.
He can spin it, man. He can spin it better than Zach Wilson can.
That's cool. They got pressure on him all day. I would not scared of Mike White.
Okay,
but I hear you though.
I'm really going with my heart on this one, I guess.
Yeah, I'm gonna check what's in your heart after this game. I don't know what you want.
Rams at Chargers.
Agenda.
Yeah.
Stop letting Baker Mayfield succeed. Chargers by 1,000,000. Stop playing.
Yes, for crying out loud. Yes. Everything that he just said. The Baker Mayfield resurrection tour needs to stop immediately.
Please.
Immediately. And it's the Rams' fault for picking him up.
That too, yes.
Final one, Chicago at Detroit. With Justin Fields.
Yep.
Eberflus said today that he is starting this week.
Jared Goff is at home. He keeps pulling off these games where, we question him for like a week or two, and then he comes out and looks like a Pro Bowler. I think this is one of those games where he does it. I'll go the Lions by 10 points.
I got the Lions too, no doubt.
Okay.
By at least 10. It's more going to be like 13.
I think it'll be high scoring, but yeah.
It's going to be high. Well, maybe. Justin Fields lands on that shoulder wrong. He's out of the game. So
he does that a lot too, yeah.
Yeah, so and it has no fantasy implications for me anymore. So I don't want him playing in that game. I don't wish an injury on anybody, but I don't want him in the game. So
No.
that's just kind of where we are at. We're gonna pause Who-Rah and Who Cares. Unless we can do them quick. Let's just do them quick.
You want to do a quick one?
Quick. We got enough time. So who do you got for Who-Rah and Who Cares? Give me your Who-Rah.
Let me. I was gonna go about Who Cares because we were just
That's
on
fine.
it. Let's go with that first. Yeah, let me go with the Who Cares because I'm sick of this man. I'm disgusted that he's on primetime. If we're gonna stop the pumping up of quarterbacks like Baker Mayfield, put Nick Foles in that conversation. He is living and riding on one game in the Super Bowl, and people put too much stock in it. I'm tired of Nick Foles. I don't know how the Colts made it to land a Monday night game. I'm disgusted by the schedule. Get Nick Foles out of my sight, please.
You know what my Who Cares is?
What's that?
Stop talking to me about the doggone field conditions in Carolina. I've already touched on it, but I'm so mad about that excuse. I'm so mad about that. Like, you got beat.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear about the field conditions because there are two teams playing on that field. Stop. Stop it right now. That's ridiculous, and it's dumb, and it's an excuse, and excuses are like buttholes. Everyone has one, and they stink. Stop.
It's been a lot of those.
Stop. Right now. Let's end on a high note. What's your Who-Rah?
My Who-Rah is a team that I've piled on all season, and I'm not going to stop now. My Who-Rah is to the declaration and the exposure of Dirty Mac Jones. I'm watching the game with Ricky, and we see a penalty get thrown on New England, and they don't show the play. Normally, when there's an unsportsmanlike conduct or a dirty play, they show the replay. They didn't show it for Mac Jones until the replay came out and showed him doing a slide of Pac-Man Jones I forgot his first, not Pac-Man Jones, took his leg, Eli Apple slides out and then takes his legs underneath him and almost injures him. Mac Jones has been a dirty player since his rookie season, and a lot of people are starting to wake up to why, and that's disgusting seeing him with these Grayson Allen-like tactics. My Who-Rah is the exposure of Dirty Mac Jones.
So my Who-Rah has nothing to do with football. Because this is technically an all sports show, but we have just been on football because the Lions are riding high. But my Who-Rah is for Miguel Cabrera, who's riding off into the sunset in 2023. Okay. And I wrote an article, a career retrospective on Detroit Sports Nation about Miguel Cabrera. If you want to read it, you can go over to Detroit Sports Nation and find it there. But my Who-Rah is for a guy who, in our uniform, collected, 3,000 hits for his career, 500 home runs. It's a surefire first ballot Hall of Famer. And I'm a little tired of Detroit fans saying, yeah, he should have retired in 2017. Yeah, he's done. I hope both of his families enjoy the income, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, guys, why do we have to be so negative? This is literally a generational talent who chose to wear your uniform for a very long time.
Yes.
And whether you like the fact that he stuck around a little bit too long or not does not matter. Because he is one of, if not the greatest right-handed hitter who has ever stepped into a batter's box.
Ever.
So my Who-Rah is for Miguel. And for his career well played. And for the fact that he's going to ride off into the sunset on his own terms. And he earned every right to do so.
Yes.
Boom.
You've had some of the most iconic athletes in Detroit sports history. You have Barry, Calvin, Iserman. You've had now Miggy to add to that conversation. Like, I'm never going to be upset about him. Shout out to Miggy.
It's coming, Charles. At some point, it's coming. It does need a championship badly. It is coming.
Fiending for it.
I don't know when, but it will be here soon enough. Eric, we got a lot of football to watch. We got Michigan and TCU 4 o'clock on Saturday.
Yes,
We've
sir.
got the Bears and the Lions on Sunday. It's going to be a fun New Year weekend. So, my friend, I wish you the best and a safe New Year.
You too, man.
And I will see you next Monday, hoping that we got everything we wish for in the new year. All right, man. We are Beyond the Box. We will see you guys next Monday night at 7 o'clock. Hopefully a victory Monday that we can celebrate and say, hey, we are in control of our destiny still. And hopefully we will be. We'll talk to y'all next Monday at